Okay,
Live. All
we're
right.
live.
Hello, live stream. It's so
Hello.
nice. Hello, live stream. It's so nice to see you. We're so happy happy you're here.
We're
All right.
happy.
We're happy. Very happy. All right. Let's do this. It is April 19th, 2018. I'm Micah Sargent, and right now we are going to talk about the Apple Watch. We're going to talk about leaks and leaks of leaks and maybe leaks of leaks of leaks. Also, some gold iPhone 10 rumors and a little bit about this new Holo chess game that's available for iOS devices. So let's check all of those things out because this is the iMore Show. Joining me this week is once again the Stan, the one who remains strong and steadfast as the cornerstone of the podcast. It's Lori Gill.
Hello. That just means that now I'm gonna miss a bunch in a row because I'm
no,
like I never miss
here.
it.
I'm knocking on wood all over. You always have to be there.
Yeah.
If you're not there, then we don't. Then I think it's not allowed to do the show.
I think you're right. It's like I have to be there. Or it doesn't exist. So it'll go into some kind of like vortex or something.
Fly away. Well, we've got to talk about starting off. There's this sort of hilarious thing that happened. A a memo from Apple leaked, and in this memo from Apple, it was sort of talking about how Apple caught this employee that was, finding or was leaking all of this stuff to press and showing what Apple was going to be working on coming up. Apple caught that person. And so they put out a memo saying, hey, you should really stop leaking information because we're very good about finding these people. And that memo about leaking leaked to the press and was published over on Bloomberg by Mark Gurman. Apparently, there were 29 leakers last year, and 12 of those were arrested. And I think that, Lori, I'm curious. I guess I didn't know about people being arrested for this, but technically, this is there could be situations where they're breaking jobs.
Yeah, so I'm sure it has something to do with the non-disclosure agreement that they're required to sign when they start working there. I actually don't know the details of the official reason for arrest and what's been done about it, but I'm sure that it might have to do with like stolen stolen information, let's say, from the company. So I think Apple might be kind of trying to set an example here. So. Let's go back just a minute. What I find interesting is that they're being they're being called out and punished at all, because for so long it seems like leaks have been. I mean, that's why we have our jobs, is because leaks happen, and so we get to write about them. So it almost seemed like Apple was sort of turning the other way anytime a rumor would leak, because or information would leak, because they kind of felt like maybe it's good for the business. It generates a lot of interest in what's coming up. But there's this shift that now we're actually learning like real legitimate news or real legitimate information, not just rumors, but actual detailed information. And maybe Apple has finally decided it's gone too far, that before it was little less important bits of information that something new might come, but it got to the point where we were knowing the names of devices before Apple announced them, or the names of software before Apple announced it. And this is all kind of like, it's important to them to have these to be a secret, not just for the possibility of other organizations kind of capturing that and using it to make their own notched phones or whatever, but it's also Apple's way of kind of like protecting its own assets and like not, if I know everything about the next gadget that Apple makes, then what's the big deal? Why worry about it? HomePod is sort of an example of us knowing too much information before it officially launched, and I think that launch, the sales were a little bit soft, partly because and this was from Apple directly, not from a leak, but we knew a little bit too much about the product, so that there were a lot of people who ahead of time made the decision not to buy it, instead of it being such a secret that we have that fervor of, I have to have this next big thing, which I don't know. That's what I feel when I watch an Apple press event and they announce something new. I'm so excited about it that I immediately want to buy it. And then I have to take a step back and decide, do I really need a third iPhone or a fourth iPad? So maybe there's something to do with that Apple's kind of like putting the hammer down on these leakers and not letting this continue.
You know, I think that you have a really good point there. One of the things there, I mean, it's still sitting behind me. The HomePod is still there. I still have one. But when we heard rumors about the HomePod, I was super pumped about getting a HomePod. And I had this idea of this sort of place where Siri sit. Oh shoot. Never mind.
You didn't say
Oh
hey
yeah, I
in
didn't
front of
say
it.
hey. That's
Cool.
right. I didn't say hey. We're good. Where
Yeah.
Siri sits and controls my home and does all this kind of stuff. And we didn't quite get that. And so when the actual Apple press event happened, I remember being a little disappointed and sort of going, oh, you know, this is what it is. And I like their tweets and their recordings of me on podcasts talking about how I was incredibly disappointed with it. Again, I still ended up with it because I have no self-control, apparently. But it ended up being it's a great device, but it's not what I expected. And when you have that expectational debt that builds up, you know, Renee says that word a lot, but that phrase a lot, but I think it's a very real concern here. And you know, I think a lot of people too have this assumption that leaks about Apple come from Apple's like PR teams or something like that, that they're false leaks. And there's an argument to be made for certain things when it comes to sort of responses, sort of semi responses to events that happen, and Apple sort of feels like it has to answer a question or whatever. Those I can understand, but a lot of times when it comes to these products, that's not how this is playing out. It really is. It's people leaking, and Apple talks about how, you know, there are people who are damaged every time, you know, something leaks and it doesn't turn out, because it's a very real change to it's market manipulation in a way, because you can see the way that the stocks change based on how things leak and what people think about those leaks. And when you have a company that is one of the biggest companies financially, it's a big deal if, you know, releasing a photo of an iPhone 11 suddenly drops Apple's share prices by blah 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 blah. That stuff is it gets serious, and so it's no wonder that these folks are getting let go. And you know, honestly, I think that if we're going to leak, like there is a lot of humor in leaking this memo about leaks, but at the same time, I think it also informs everyone. You know, those of us in the press and people who come across this article, it's like Apple is very serious about this and has a reason for wanting to keep these things locked up tight. Again, we want the chance to tell our customers why the product is great and not have that done poorly by someone else. Apple has a very specific idea in mind whenever they are releasing a product and announcing a product, and they do a good job of I think in many cases of selling people on their products at those press events. So that's where they like it to happen.
Yeah, and if information comes out ahead of time, especially if it's not exactly so it could be. I've actually talked to like product developers. Okay, so there'd be a new speaker that comes out, but it's, you know, it's a portable speaker and it's $500. And if I just get the chance to test the speaker out without any information behind it, I'm like, I mean, it's good, but it's not $500 good. And then when I talk to the developer of the speaker and they say, actually, it has X, Y, and Z features on it. You can set it anywhere in the room and it produces sound 360 degrees. It, you know, has like its own internal algorithm that like understands its surroundings and optimizes the sound. Then I go, oh, that's more than just a portable speaker. There's actually something else to it. So Apple, you know, can have like control over how the information is presented to us. Whereas if it's just that, well, Apple just released a really expensive speaker, the end, then where can we sort of build up this idea of like, well, Apple is just overcharging us. This speaker is definitely not related to the HomePod. I just used an idea in my head, but it can really be bad news for Apple and can negatively affect, sales. I mean, that's huge. If you're an employee of Apple and something that you do actually causes the company to, not generate the kind of revenue that they were expecting, why would they want that? Why would they be okay with that? Why would that be something they would let slip on, without having control over how that information is presented to someone?
Yeah. And honestly, I think if Steve Jobs were still there, I see this very real Willy Wonka moment where the chocolate recipe leaked, or how I think that's how the story goes. The chocolate recipe got out, and as soon as it got out, Willy Wonka threw a fit and was like, "Well, closing down the shop because this was a very secret thing that was not for anyone else, and I can't trust humans anymore, and humans have disappointed me, so now they don't get my delicious chocolates." So like Steve Jobs would just shut down the Foxconn factories and say nobody gets iPhones anymore because I'm disappointed by humanity.
And we're
Um,
all we're all just like living outside of the Apple store, just like longingly wishing it would reopen.
Where's my golden app ticket?
And there's for some reason iPhones are still being produced, but we don't know how they're getting to us.
And I guess yeah, they're Oompa Loompas producing iPhones is what we'll
Yeah.
find out.
I wanna win the golden ticket that lets me visit the Apple factory when that
Yes.
finally happens.
You would, instead of taking fizzy lifting soda or whatever it was, they would have Apple drones that would like clip onto your shirt and fly you up into the air.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. The everlasting gobstopper, instead
Yes.
of being like a multi-part food, it would be like an entire movie experience, or so, no, like like Netflix, but all built into your. I don't know. There's something
I
there.
I love where you're going with this.
Thank you. Yeah. Any last thoughts on that leaked memo, or any other things you want to add to the Apple Willy Wonka factory?
Other than the irony that it was a leaked memo about people not leaking memos anymore, which is hilarious. I
Yes.
think I'm good. That's about all I have to say about that. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let me tell you all about a new sponsor here on the iMore Show. It's ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? Well, posting your position to job sites and waiting for the right people to see it is not fun. ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. It learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. In fact, 80% of employees who post a Try that again. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in how long, Lori? Just one day. That's right. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. And right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. You just go to ziprecruiter.com/imore. That's ziprecruiter.com. That's ZIPRECRUITER.com/imore. Once again, ziprecruiter.com/imore. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Thanks, ZipRecruiter. Let's go ahead and talk about. We've got some Apple Watch news this week. One of the things that happened, I actually had a few acquaintances I saw on Twitter over the course of like the last year, sharing photos of their iPhones, or not their iPhone screen, but their Apple Watch screens popping out of like the watch casing because of a swollen battery. And what's going on now? We've got a program in place.
Yes. There's a recall and a service program that Apple has started that will let you repair or replace your Apple Watch. I believe it affects Series 2 Apple Watches, and they will repair or replace it for free. Now, a friend of mine actually had this happen to her. This was maybe a month or two ago. It might have been as much as two months ago. she just put on her Apple Watch one morning and it felt weird. And so she took it off and looked at it, and sure enough, it had set like it had separated from the screen, and you could it was, you know, exactly the kind of description that you would imagine with a swollen battery. And she called up Apple and they replaced it immediately without question. So this is definitely something that I think has been kind of growing. There may not, you know, it might not have been something that Apple knew was such a big issue, and then they're kind of discovering that more and more. There's a lot of people who are experiencing this swollen battery issue. So you can exchange or repair your Apple Watch for free by opening a ticket with your let's see, open a support ticket for your Apple Watch. Oh, by going to Apple's website, there's a page that you can go to fill out a form, and then you'll just bring your Apple Watch in for repair, or you'll send it to them if you don't live near a Apple store, and they'll examine it, make sure that it is in fact a swollen battery issue, and if they can't repair it, they'll just replace it for you.
Excellent. Yeah. Do not sleep on this. If you have an Apple Watch that has a swollen, frankly, if you have any device at all, it doesn't even have to be for Apple. If you have any device where the battery is swelling, that is a very serious, very, again, don't mess around with kind of thing. That could result in fire. It could result in explosion. It could result in a whole bunch of not fun issues. And when it's something that's strapped to your wrist, that's extra, especially dangerous. So if you have that, do not, sort of try to ignore it or it's fine. It's not fine. Take that into an Apple store. If there's not an Apple store close by, then fill out a support ticket online. Do not try charging it. You basically need to, I don't know, get a shoebox, put it inside the shoebox, dig a 6-foot grave, put it in. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Keep it around, but keep it, don't charge it or anything like that. And don't wear it. It's means that the chemicals inside of the battery just aren't cooperating the way that they're supposed to be, and it could result in you getting burned or hurt in some way. So it's nice that Apple, I think, anytime someone took in a swollen battery, I'm sure Apple replaced it up to this point. There's no way that wouldn't be the case unless it was very clearly like, well, you stuck this in the microwave and we can tell. But other than that, like, this is not something that any company fools around with. But what I like about the fact that it's now an official program, it just means that more people are going to know about it. And I think, in fact, Apple notifies whenever these service programs get put into place. I'm pretty sure that anyone on, in their records that has one of these devices gets a notification letting them know, hey, we are, if you've got this issue, then we are doing free repairs or replacements. So this just means that maybe people who think, oh, this is just a cool new feature. It's got an airbag built in now. No, it's not an airbag. It is a bad battery. So you can take that in and get it fixed.
Yeah, the recall coverage is specifically for the 42 millimeter C2 Apple Watch, and it's likely that Apple will repair or replace any Apple Watch that has a swollen battery that they can tell wasn't done by you as the owner of the Apple Watch or user of the Apple Watch. So even if you have the 32 millimeter or sorry, the 38 millimeter or the series 3 or something like that, go ahead and if it's swollen, if your battery has swollen, definitely contact Apple support to see if you can get that taken care of. So
hello, Apple, I have a swollen battery and I need it gone. Yeah, they'll take that in, and also it gives them a chance to research sort of where things have gone wrong. And the more devices they have, the more data points they have, and they can get a better idea of sort of what happened. Do tell, Lori, I hear there is there's going to be potentially some third-party Apple Watch faces. There are rumors again that we will see a third-party Apple Watch face. And before you talk about that, I want to mention there was a rumor not too terribly long ago that I think it still might come to be. I just think that it's not the time for it, but I think we'll see it spring to life. There was a watch face that was allegedly tied to the Pride band, the Apple Watch Pride band, not like actually electronically. It's not like if you put on the Pride band, then it would suddenly switch faces, but there was a Pride watch face and it had, a cool effect that was rainbow and whatever. And that was buried in the Apple Watch, Watch OS code. And it's not there, or it's not, live and available right now, but I could see it sort of being tied to an event where, okay, now it's Pride Month. Let's go ahead and activate this feature and also, sell Pride bands. What I'm curious about is what have they now found inside of WatchOS code? This new thing.
Yeah, so in WatchOS 4.3.1, I guess there's a framework in there that allows a developer to communicate with Xcode running on a Mac, and this could allow third-party face configuration. So it's not, there's nobody found another third-party watch face or anything like that. There's evidence for the potential of an API that would allow developers to create third-party watch faces. That's it. That's all we've got. That's all we found.
Yeah.
So it's a real, kind of loose thread about whether or not this will actually become something that third-party developers can use. But we already know that it exists in part in that there's a Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse watch face. We know that they've added the Toy Story watch faces. So we know that it exists, that there are the ability to, kind of create these new watch faces. Whether or not Apple was completely in charge of it, or whether they allowed Disney to create a watch face and just kind of dump that into the system, we don't know for sure. But that that could be what it is. That Apple kind of has this little part in their code that allows for a third-party developer to come up with their own watch faces, which to me, I don't know why Apple isn't already doing this. Android Wear has, I don't know, hundreds of different watch faces that you can add. And
many of them are trash, but some of them are not.
I do understand the importance of making sure that watch faces don't negatively affect the like how well the Apple Watch works. I know that's important. And if you're kind of willy-nilly letting people, dump a watch face in that could, make your Apple Watch run slow, that's a bad thing. I get that. But at the same time, if there's sort of guidelines that you have to meet in order to make a watch face, and restrictions on like how that looks, how it's presented on your watch face, I think it's great. I would love to see this. I would love to see, because we can make our own watch faces by using, images that we turn into watch faces for our photo. So, so
like the kaleidoscope feature and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you can make your Star Wars watch face, but it's just a picture, and you don't have access to as many of the complications. I think, do you even have, I don't think you have access to any complications when you use the photo watch face, right?
Yeah, I'm not entirely.
Let's find out.
Yeah. Well, you scroll through. I'm going to talk a little bit more. The interesting thing about this, dig into WatchOS 4.3.1, basically whenever you connect an iPhone with the computer and you open up Xcode, you can get log messages from it. And if there is an Apple Watch paired to that iPhone, Xcode will display settings and log functions, or log messages rather, for the Apple Watch as well. Well, there was a developer tools server within this framework that outputted the log message. This is a quote, "This is where the third-party face config bundle generation would happen." So for that to be in iOS, to say this is where you would have your face configuration bundle, or this is where it would be generated, that's that's a pretty big deal. But again, someone in the upper levels could have said, "Hey, let's see what it looks like to do third-party faces on Apple Watch," and then in this code, they created the things, and it's like, pointing out, okay, this is exactly where this would happen. This is where this would happen. So just because that's there, yeah, we don't know for sure that that's going to end up being something that Apple ships, and they may not want control, or they may not want to lose control over that. Because I think battery life is incredibly important to Apple, and I think the sort of they talked long and hard about the whatever it is, the 3-second glance or whatever their number is. They're very serious about, and so your complications in your apps are supposed to be able to be glanceable within that period of time. So I could see why they would be a little hands off, or not hands offy, but a little not interested, I guess, in sharing this part of the screen. But I want it, darn it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, just to clarify, so the image watch face, where you put your own custom image on your watch face, it has two complications. You can move the information, the time and the information from the to the top or the bottom, and there's two complications available, but they're also limited to what can be in there because of their size. So it's okay, but it's also pretty limited. You can't, restyle the clock or anything like that. So, Renee, I think you might remember we talked on the iMore show about the possibility of custom watch faces that are sort of like identified with the watch band.
Yes.
So I love this idea. I want a watch band that has an NFC chip in it, let's say, so that you can every day tap your watch band to your Apple Watch and get a new watch face. So let's say I have a Star Wars watch band, right? Mm-hmm. So I just connect that watch band to my Apple Watch, and it pops up. Here's a new watch face that you could use today. Oh yes, I think I'll use that watch face today. Thank you very much. And then the next day pops up. Here's a new watch face for you today. And I would spend a lot of money on certain watch bands that would give me that joyous new watch face every day. Like branding, it's all about that, right? Like I would do that for Star Wars. I would do that for, Pokemon. I would do that for right now, since I'm so into Animal Crossing. There's a lot of cool things that could be done if this were possible, which I think the technology is there. It's just a matter of whether or not this could be something that us as the consumer, whether it would be good for us as the consumer, or if it would somehow, like you said, negatively affect our ability to use the watches, like if it drains batteries, or if it somehow doesn't match up with, the 3-second glance idea or something. So,
yeah. So I can't tell if you can see.
Your hot dog?
My hot dog. Yeah. So it's a little too far in the background. I'd go get it, but I don't have my stretchy headphones on right now. I am obsessed with the dancing hot dog character from Snapchat. I don't really use Snapchat all that often, but I love this little dancing hot dog. And in fact, I have like this Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe style art display on my wall of the different colors of Marilyn Monroe, except it's this dancing Snapchat hot dog. I am obsessed. And one of the things that Snapchat does is anytime you get one of the products, in this case, the Snapchat hot dog, they include a QR code that whenever you scan it within the app, then it brings back that filter, that lens. So, on day to day, the lenses on Snapchat change out, and most days you don't have access to the dancing hot dog. So because I bought these products, I could pull that up anytime I want to. So I like the idea, yeah, whether it be an NFC chip, which I think is even more awesome, because then there would be no sort of, oh, well, I need to put my camera over here or do this or whatever. It's just as soon as you slide it on, that would be really neat. I really like that idea. And it doesn't even just have to be like, even if it's just sort of a colorful band, if the face on your watch could match the color band, that'd be so cool.
Yes, it would be so cool.
So listen to us, Apple.
I had, this is way off track, but I have to talk about this. I was at Universal Studios Hollywood last weekend, and when you buy a soda, just they give you an empty cup, and there's a nice big soda machine where you can pick from dozens of different flavors of soda. You've probably seen them in fast food restaurants. That's getting to be more common. They're
Like the
these sort of like,
mixer thing where you
yeah,
one and then you can like, I want cherry syrup in it or whatever.
exactly. It's just like that. But what I found super amazing, they have a chip on the bottom of the cup that registers that the cup has been used, because at Universal Studios in Hollywood, you don't get refill. You don't get free refills. But how do you not how do they pay attention and make sure that you're not getting a second refill, right? There's a chip at the bottom, and if you try to put the cup in, if you try to use that same cup again, it says this cup has already received its fill. You can't use it again. And of course, I decided I would try to circumvent the situation, and I pulled the chip off the bottom. It's the tiniest little chip on a sticker on the bottom of the cup. That's all it is. So of course I pulled that little sticker off and tried it again, and instead it said that it doesn't register that there's a cup there at all.
Oh, snap.
Wow, right?
That's great. That's great.
And it's so small and so insignificant, and it's just on a little sticker that you slap on the bottom of every single cup. I mean, they must sell thousands of sodas every day, so it has to be like relatively inexpensive to do something like that.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure that people out there are going, what in the world? These chips are often nothing more than a little a painting of copper or like aluminum. They're a lot like NFC chips, where you can get a bunch of NFC chips for like $10 or something like that, and it's not a whole lot more than just a printed circuit that's made out of one type of metal or whatever. So yeah, you can do that pretty cheaply, and I think that's really neat. I think next step would be at the beginning of your trip, you can register your card, like the card that you used to do your tickets. And then as you're going through the park and you're refilling your drink, like it just charges your card. So you get to use the same cup over and over again. And that just has your identification on the bottom of the cup.
I love this. Oh man, all these great ideas. This is great. It's the future.
It is the future.
But my point on that is that I think it's potentially could be relatively inexpensive to have some kind of watch band that can send information to your Apple Watch so that you could have whatever watch face relates to that watch band. That was kind of where I was getting at with that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's talk about another rumor that sprung forth. It was a little bit earlier this week, and it's an interesting. Or no, actually, it was last week. It was on Friday. The iPhone 10, of course, has been out for a while, but the FCC documents, which Apple has to file for their iPhone devices, well, for all of their devices, included an image of an iPhone that is clearly gold. The outer rim, the chassis is gold. The front of the phone, of course, is still black, but the back of the phone is this, in my opinion, unpleasant butterscotch color. In some people's opinion, maybe it looks gold. I think it looks like butterscotch, or like a really tame peach color. And anyway, apparently there was a gold iPhone 10. Apple, like the fact that these are FCC documents for the iPhone 10, not FCC documents for an iPhone 11 or anything like that. It seems like maybe Apple was thinking about doing a gold iPhone 10 and then decided against it, or maybe the color wasn't what they wanted. There are plenty of reasons and speculations as to why this phone exists but didn't end up shipping. But it could mean that Apple is still experimenting with these colors and could release a gold iPhone in the future.
So, a couple things. First of all, you remember the blue and gold dress, was it? I can't remember the exact colors.
Yeah, what is it? Is it black and gold,
or was it?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Or was it completely? That was exactly the joke, right?
Black and blue.
So when you're taking a picture of something, the color is never right. It doesn't look right. Like you actually, so Apple, for example, will manipulate the photographs that we see on the Apple homepage, because they want that picture to look as close to what it looks like in real life as you and I would look at when we see it in our hands. They don't just take a picture of it and then put it up. They make sure that the colors match up to the real life color as much as possible. Gold is an especially awkward color to photograph. So
Mm,
when you look at this picture, and it does, I think peach is probably a good example of what you were saying, that it kind of looks like it's not a pretty color of gold. But keep in mind that this was a photograph just intended for the FCC, so it probably in real life is not that same color of gold as it is
true.
in that photograph. Um, so that's number one, is like the color that you see is not. Don't be afraid that if Apple decides to put out a gold iPhone 10, that it'll look like that, because it probably won't. It will probably look a completely different color of
That's a
gold.
good point.
It'll probably represent more like the color of gold that we already see on the iPhone, on other iPhone
iPhone
models.
8 and
iPhone
back.
8, yeah, it'll be slightly different. Partly, I would guess it would be slightly different just because of the glass back on the iPhone 10. That matters. That makes a difference on how color is produced. If Renee were here talking about it, he'd have some details on the differences between the metals and things like that, and why it's harder to get a
And
color
the
like that.
coatings and all that
Yeah.
jazz.
But number two, this also harkens back to this leaked information that Apple really hates, because right now the internet is, a buzz, or at least it was last week, a buzz with, I hate the gold iPhone 10. Okay, so now if Apple decides that they want to put out an iPhone 10, even if it looks completely different in color, there's going to be a large portion of people who are going to say, I hate the new color, because they've seen this version, they've seen this color, they don't like it. And their brains are just going to just immediately say, no, that's an ugly color. So that, there's an example of why leaking information, it could negatively affect Apple if they do ever decide to put out an iPhone 10. Michael, you just said that, like, you don't know if you'd be happy if Apple put out a gold iPhone 10. You have already kind of jumped into that, no, I'm not going to do it, right?
Yeah, I've been tainted by the rumor mill, because yeah, looking at this photo, I am turned off by it. I don't care for it at all. But you're very right. In fact, now I'm starting to think it might be blue and not gold.
Or is it black?
It could be black. Is that pink? Is that orange? No, I'm kidding. But you have a very good point. This is like fluorescent lighting. It's next to some rulers. It's taken like from a weird angle. It's not ideal at all. So it definitely very well could look a lot different, and in fact probably did and probably will. But I don't know. I guess based on the iPhone 8 design, because of course, iPhone 8 has wireless charging built in. So the back of it is glass. And they went with a white back for the rose gold, but they call it blush gold, iPhone 8. I would prefer the blush gold chassis with the white back over, again, butterscotch color, if that's what it ends up being. And again, it probably would look fine, but I'm not a fan of the gold anyway. Rose gold or bust. So Apple, if you're listening, I would like a rose gold iPhone 10.
Isn't that funny that like standard gold it's somehow off-putting to, like, it is to me. It's a little off-putting compared to rose gold. I don't like the color gold on gadgets and things. Like if it's jewelry, that makes sense, but I don't want gold furniture or gold gadgets
Yeah.
or things. Like, for me, I know there are some circumstances or some people who really think that the color gold is like awesome and excellent, and more power to them. But I do find just the color of gold to be a little bit off-putting. But a rose gold, it's suddenly more elegant to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We have a president who is very into gold and is often sort of teased for his hotels that have gold everything. But that's because, yeah, it can come off looking very gaudy. I don't even like gold jewelry personally. If I'm choosing jewelry for myself, it's almost always some sort of silver or white gold or something like that. But there's something just about gold that feels I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like, ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Apple makes it in, multiple colors. But I know that obviously gold is huge in China, and so there it's not considered a gaudy, off-putting thing. And there's plenty that's gold. And gold is a sign of prosperity and wealth and luck and things like that. So it makes sense why those devices sell so well and why Apple started with gold and then hit up rose gold afterward.
Hmm.
Um, so that those of us who are very loud about our love of rose gold get the things that we want.
Rose gold, rose
Rose
gold, rose
gold,
gold,
rose
rose gold. So I think I'd be I well, I don't know. I'm looking at this picture of this leaked FCC document, and
gold.
I don't think I'd buy it. I don't. I would do it if it was rose gold, but I don't think I would do it with just the standard gold. It's true.
If it looked like that, or even if it like looked like good gold. Yeah, okay, so no matter what, it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. And
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I
Um,
have no
there might be
interest.
something to be said though, if the iPhone 10 were to have a similar like white backing like the iPhone 8 does, with the just standard gold accents, because it's not as much of the gold as
Yes.
the complete back face of the iPhone 10 in this leaked FCC document. It's completely gold, and that really is off-putting. So
Yeah, and
uh,
I mean, I will say though, I dislike the metal gold, the chassis, this chassis. E, well, I dislike them both a lot, but I never like sort of shiny gold. And so like this phone, even if it had the white back, it would not be for me, but I could see it being for more people. Um, but that's the gold that I really hate, is the just traditional sort of shiny, looks like a gold wedding band gold. I do not like. And so then you take that shiny gold wedding band gold and you put it next to um 12-day-old butterscotch pudding cup, and I am not interested.
I like you went from butterscotch to butterscotch pudding, and now it's 12-day-old butterscotch pudding. Are you talking about like the shiny film that collects on the top of an old container of butterscotch pudding, where it kind of almost browns a little, but it's also kind of shiny?
That is exactly, you've hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what it is. Yeah, this it's not a pleasing color in its current form. But again, we have to go back to what Lori said, which is that this is not any sort of finalized, beautiful press shot or anything like that. And in fact, it wasn't ever intended for our eyes. And so I don't think that this is the representation that Apple would want out there, and that would be, again, what you would see in a final version. Um, any last thoughts on the gold, or maybe blue, or maybe red, or maybe orange iPhone 10?
Now that you say that, I would jump at the chance for like an
Oh
anodized
God,
metal
me
back
too.
blue iPhone. Why won't they give us a blue iPhone?
I would get mine. I would pray and beg to I got the iPod Nano. It was the one that it was longer and sort of candy bar shaped, and it was like the first one that had the camera and the anodized green color. It was green's my favorite color, and it was gorgeous. And if I could have the chassis be that anodized green, that would be
So
so
nice.
cool. I would love
And
that phone.
people can say like, well, you can just get a case that matches that. And yeah, you can, but it's not the same.
That's what I say. Not It's not the same at all. But there are third party services out there that can help you with that. I just have never. I don't trust anybody. Like I don't want you to take my phone. I'll
Yeah.
keep it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me about this exciting game that we've seen in movies that you can apparently now play on iOS. You just wrote about this, and I need to know more.
Okay, do you want the nerdy version where you talk about playing Dejarik, or do you want the
That's
slightly
the
less
version.
nerdy version where you talk about playing hollow chess? Because they're the
Maybe
same thing.
maybe in parentheses you do the less nerdy version, but
Hollow
in
chess.
yeah, hollow chess, but Dejarik is what we're talking about.
Yeah. So There's a game that has been in existence for 4 months now, open available to the public. So Disney made it in collaboration with Lenovo. They created Star Wars Jedi Challenges, which is intended to be an augmented reality game that's used with Lenovo. It's for iPhone and Android. It's intended to be used with Lenovo's augmented reality headset and a lightsaber and a beacon that senses your movement. So all three of these items together create this augmented reality experience where you can train as a Jedi or battle evil forces or something like that. And you can play holo chess with this entire setup. For some reason that I'm super happy with, they decided to release one portion of Star Wars Jedi Challenges as a AR kit game that anyone can play if they have an iPhone that supports AR kits. So if you have an iPhone 6 or later, not including the iPhone SE does not support this. You can play a game of holo chess right on your iPhone without needing to have the entire headset. And I played a couple of games yesterday. Frankly, it is hilarious and awesome and fun. You kind of set your phone up so that, so it's looking at whatever's in the room. The game then asks you to confirm that this is where you want to set the game. So then you set it, and then it's in a stationary position. Then you can literally physically walk around this table and look at all of the characters. You can lean forward so that you're zooming in to these little creatures, or you can back out so that you're looking at the full table. You sort of when you want to select a one of the creatures, you have to physically move your phone so that its view is centered on that creature.
Oh, wow.
And then you tap the screen so that you've officially selected it. Then you move your phone to a spot on the table and then tap the screen so that you're officially selecting that. And then your little creature moves forward, and then the computer plays its turn, and then these little creatures fight each other. And it's amazing. It's really like playing a game of holo chess right there in your living room. I purposefully did this funny thing. So I set up the table and then I scooted my legs under it. Your legs don't go, it doesn't like affect the fact that table is sitting there. Your legs don't kind of like ruin the shot. They actually go under the table.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's so awesome and so
Okay,
fun.
how have I not downloaded this yet? I don't understand. What is my problem?
I know. And it's really fast and really easy to play. The game sort of teaches you like different creatures have different strengths and weaknesses. And I failed like 3 times against the computer until I kind of learned like, oh, okay, so I want to send this guy this way because it moves more spaces, but this guy's really strong, so I want to keep him in the center and use him last. Like little different strategy things. Oh man, it's so fun. It's so great. And they're like, I think all of us as kids, when we watched Star Wars for the first time, thought, I want to play that game. And no matter what kind of version of it came out, it was never as cool as holo chess. And this is just as cool as you can get playing holo chess without having the real thing. It definitely makes me want to go buy the $200 Jedi Challenges setup that has the headset and the lightsaber and the beacon, which is probably why they released this. They wanted to give people a chance to see just how good of quality it is, because it is really good quality graphics and things like that.
If you get that, I'm getting a plane ticket. I'll come see you and we'll play.
Yes. Well, for the price of a plane ticket, you could buy your own.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Good point.
The one problem I have with this idea of buying this whole setup is it's only for one game. So for $200, I could buy the Jedi Challenges headset and lightsaber and beacon, or for $200, I could buy the Oculus Go that's coming out in a few months.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. I was just waiting. Oculus Go. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like that's very true, and it makes sense to to wait for that and get that instead because there's so many more games. And maybe it'll even get to a point where they release that game. Right now it's sort of,
It's exclusive.
yeah, it's exclusive. Thank you. But
Yeah.
eventually it may not be.
You know what I would do though, if if Star Wars Jedi Challenges got more and more and more games in it, that might be worth the purchase, because then you wouldn't just be playing the same set of games over and over again, that you would constantly be getting new and different challenges. So that might make it worth it if they were to like constantly be presenting us with new challenges and new games to play. That could work.
Yeah.
I would spend $200 on that. But as is, it's a little pricey just for us, a handful of challenges that you get to play. I mean, I know it's different every time, but that's it. You just do the same set of challenges, and holochess is pretty much the only thing I was super interested in, because as fun as Star Wars is, I'm not a 10-year-old.
Well, that means that you are too old to become a Jedi if we're going by the prequels. If you're not under 10, or however, I don't even remember how old he was. But your midichlorian count, man, let me tell you, out of this world.
Off the charts.
It's in another galaxy. It's off the charts. Well, I think that that just about wraps it. Well, that does wrap it up for us today, folks. We thank you, of course, for listening. We love being able to chat with you, sort of. We love to talk about all the latest and greatest news here. Want to thank Jim Metzendorf for editing the show. Thank you so much, Jim, for making us sound great, even whenever we go off on tangents that just make no sense. We'll, of course, be back next week. Who knows? There could be 5 people. There could be 2 people. There could just be Lori, but somebody will be here.
I hope it's not just me. You guys are going to be so bored.
If they were here, if you were looking for Rene Ritchie online, you can find him on Twitter at Rene Ritchie. You can find his awesome video production. It's called Vector. You can go onto YouTube and look that up, or you can go to vector.show. If Serenity were here, she'd tell you that you could find her at SETTERN on Twitter and Instagram. If Georgia Dow were here, you could find her at Georgia_Dow on Twitter. Now, Lori, you are here, so tell us, where can we find you online?
You can find me at Appaholic on Twitter. That's APPAHOLIK. And you can find me at Lori Gill at most other social things. And right now you can find me on iMore writing all about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp updates, because they're big.
Awesome. If you're looking for me online, you can find me at Micah Sargent. You can also head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where it has links to all the stuff that I do. And all of the too many podcasts that I'm on. So I appreciate if you check those out. Until next week, goodbye all, and have a beautiful, wonderful, lovely weekend.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Goodbye.